Thank you, Professor Shahid. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here today at IIM Kozhikode for this seminar as part of my one-month stint at IIMK. So I already had 3 co-authors from IIMK. My first co-author, Sumit Mitra, then Deepa, then Anand Kutnunithan, and 4th co-author, Srijers. So that way, collaborations with IIMK faculty members are an ongoing process for me, and that gives me motivation and inspiration to work closely with the IIMK community. I've been here for 3 weeks, and officially my stint here ends tomorrow, but I'm coming back on Monday and spending 1 or 2 more days on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I leave IIMK. So my presentation today consists of 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to introduce 4 special issues that we have launched for different journals and the expectations and requirements. And then I would specifically talk about 7 types of systematic review articles. I've been serving as an editor on a daily basis for a couple of journals. In addition to my daily role as associate editor or senior editor of those journals, I took initiative to launch some special issues for Journal of Business Research, Services Industries Journal, Journal of Strategic Marketing, and European Business Review during this academic year. And I am sure you might have had a chance to take a look at the calls for papers sent by Shahid 2 weeks ago. I would like to focus, because sometimes when you read the calls for papers on the journal website, you get 50% clarity. But when I have a chance to introduce these special issues, probably you will have some questions, and I can try to answer those questions. That's the advantage of introducing the special issues, because last month, in June, I spent a month in Europe, and I visited 3 European universities in 3 different countries, and I did the same presentation, and I found that there were a lot of responses from the audience, and which will help the audience as well as the journals to understand the expectations and prepare the papers. So the first special issue that I'm introducing today is a flagship special issue for Journal of Business Research. That's what the Journal of Business Research chief editor says. This is the flagship special issue compared to any other special issue. This is because this is special review issue, special issue for review articles. Journal of Business Research current impact factor is 4.1, which used to be less than 3. So 4.1 impact factor, this impact factor is much higher than several FT journals. So even IIMK might have to rewrite the rules of FT looking at the impact factor. And CNRS, France ranked JBR as A star, but in ABDC it is A, and JBR has applied for A star status in ABDC, which is under revision currently. And this special review issue, we call for review articles of different types, and we have focus for marketing and international business subjects for this special issue. So it need to have direct or indirect link with the marketing, or it can be international business. These are the 2 subjects that we handle as part of this special issue. Suppose in case if we have a topic which has some link with marketing or some link with international business, those kind of topics are also welcome, but it need to have some link. If it is completely purely on finance, we cannot encourage those kind of papers for this special issue. So, because we have some focus, but in case, but we would be considering interdisciplinary topics as well, in case if it has some indirect linkage with marketing or international business kind of subjects. For example, something on entrepreneurship, which you can link with marketing, or those kind of, some interdisciplinary topics are also welcome. And yeah, so as announced on the JBR website, this special issue will focus on theme-based review, theory-based review, structured review, framework-based review, meta-analysis, and bibliometric reviews. And this one, submission window will be open for 2 months in January and February. Sorry, this is not 19, this is 20, it's a typo. So January, February 2020. I believe the FT will restructure the list because impact factor of some of the FT journals are less than 2.5. So a lot of journals have these days 4+ impact factor. So I'm also expecting that JBR will apply for FT inclusion in the near future. And the next special issue, Services Industries Journal. This is also a review issue. So out of 4 special issues that I'm introducing, only 2 are exclusively for review articles, and 2 other special issues are not for review articles. So this one is also a review issue, so I put it together with the JBR because this one also considers review articles. This one is this one has deadline August 20, so just 20 more days. And we will close the submissions on August 20 for the Service Industries Journal Special Review issue. I also serve as editor for all the review articles for this journal on daily basis. And Services Industries Journal has over 40 years of track record. And its 1-year impact factor is about 2, and the UK ABS rank is 2, ABDC rank, current rank is B. But Chief Editor has applied for a rank in the ABDC since ABDC called for journals to represent based on number of submissions, based on number of whatever impact factor and all. ABDC will announce the new list in October. So we'll have to wait and see what will be the rank of this journal in ABDC in the next list. And we call for review articles on specific themes, thematic reviews, which can be directly or indirectly related to the services sector, which Services Industries Journal is an interdisciplinary journal. So it considers articles broadly related to the services. It can be strategy, it can be marketing, it can be HR issues in services. Some kind of connection is required for Services Industries Journal. So it can be international business in services, any of those kind of link. Like outsourcing services, I think that just works in that area too. Those kind of, yeah. So it's more interdisciplinary, or it's open for researchers across the discipline that way. It's not confining to just marketing. And yeah, for example, it can be sector-specific review, or it can be theme-specific review, or it can be theory-based review article as well. Yeah, just keep in mind only 20 more days for deadline for this special issue of this journal. The third one is more interesting, and we welcome all types of articles. So it's not a literature review special issue, the third one. So this is European Business Review. European Business Review special issue is having a title, New and Novel Paradigms in India and China. European Business Review special issue on new and novel paradigms in business in India or China has a deadline September 25. Call for papers are on the journal website. European Business Review has a rank of UK ABS 2, ABDC Australia B, and site score of European Business Review, the current site score, Scopus site score, it is 2.7, and this implies that the next year's impact factor will be around 1.7 for this journal. And the rationale for this special issue is China and India are most populous emerging markets. China and India boast numerous innovative firms and business-savvy entrepreneurs. Chinese and Indian firms are actively internationalizing their businesses, and Western multinationals constantly get inspirations through working with China and India. So all this makes China and India very attractive from the point of view of organizations from all over the world. And we would like to encourage submissions focusing on something new and novel. That's why the title of the special issue is New and Novel Paradigms. Suppose if you're working on Bible or Quran or Bhagavad Gita, we cannot consider those kind of submissions because those have been there for centuries. So we need a topic which is more contemporary to be considered for this special issue. So it can be an empirical article, it can be a thematic, contemporary, conceptual article, or it can be an article using qualitative methods. Methods, we are open for all types of methods, all types of article for this European Business Review special issue, but it has to be on a contemporary, relevant topic. Yeah, so I'm the main guest editor for this special issue, and I do have 2 more co-editors from Australian University for this special issue. So the 4th one I would like to announce, Journal of Strategic Marketing. Journal of Strategic Marketing has an A rank in the Australian ABDC list. So this special issue has a title, Research in Strategic Marketing Past and Future. And the deadline is November 2019. So this, 3 more months. And the type of article that we would like to encourage for this special issue is the article that focuses on new models, new measures, new methods. So why we put it this way is that suppose if you actually look at 1,000 papers published in different journals, 900 or 920 or 930 articles are of replete and recycled types. People are not really people are not really spending time to come with the original work. People are just trying to replicate different studies. So we like to encourage research in the area of strategic management as well as marketing, or blended research or hybrid research, but with original work. We really need to encourage original work because the field of business management in general do not have a lot of original theoretical model. For example, I can tell you, there is something called springboard model or springboard theory. So this was published as an editorial article. And since the field of international business doesn't have many theories and models, people just recycledly use the same theory, institutional theory, or transaction theory, or just 4 or 5 theories, and springboard theory got 5,000 plus citations, which was not published as a refereed article, which was published in an editorial article. So that means the field doesn't have enough original theoretical models, original theories, original models. So that's why this special issue of Journal of Strategic Marketing, and such papers get citations. Such papers such papers are the most impactful papers if you actually do analyze the most cited authors in the world or most downloaded authors in the world. So that's why we would like to encourage new models or articles focusing on new innovative models that can serve as platform for future research in the subject area so that others can use it for their research. We don't want recycled models. We want original models. That's why the title is new models. It can be reviews also, new measures, new scale development. So we encourage scale development papers for this, and new methods. So, and you have to also explain how your new model or how your new measure will help future research. And this special issue broadly encompasses 2 subject areas, strategy and marketing. Before I go into the review articles, I would like to encourage questions in case if you have any question on these 4 special issues. Any doubts? Or is it clear? Okay, then I will go ahead because we don't have much time. So my main topic for today's seminar is 7 types of review articles. sometimes when we do PhD thesis preparation, or when we try to write PhD thesis, we don't get clarity about how to develop the literature review chapter as a research paper and publish. I didn't have clarity in the beginning. So I started teaching in the PhD program. So when I started teaching in the PhD program 5 years ago, or it's almost six years ago, so I tried to learn, I tried to read different types of research papers. Before that, I used to read only empirical papers before I started teaching in the PhD program. So I thought entire research is centered around on empirical papers, which many PhD students or many professors still believe, those who are not really teaching. So I ended up spending 2 semesters to read different types of research papers from different journals as part of my preparation to teach in the PhD program. And I learned a lot of new things. I learned new insights, and I also looked at the journal impact factor, most downloaded articles, most cited articles, most cited authors, and I found review articles and theory articles are the most impactful, are the most useful, and are the most cited. And so this, I also found this is kind of secret of success for many journals. This is kind of secret of success for most cited authors, and this is kind of secret of success of most downloaded authors as well. So I tried to learn more about it, and I tried to specialize in that area to some extent, in addition to my empirical papers. And yeah, and I also took, I published 8 review articles so far, and 7 out of 8 are in ABDCA journals. And those review articles are also getting good number of downloads these days. And I try to look at the methodology, how people are writing or how people are publishing review articles. And recently, I edited a special issue for International Business Review, focusing only on review articles. We got 72 submissions. I learned a lot of things after screening those 72 submissions as well, what kind of review articles people submit. I would try to share some of those experiences. And since I have time constraints, I would like to focus on some specific aspects of review articles and would try to give you some time to ask questions as well. Importance. When we think the importance of review articles, sometimes in the early stages of our career, if you haven't read classic review articles, sometimes you fail to understand. Even I failed to understand why this review article is important in the beginning of my career as well. So even one of the journal editors also tried to disagree with me when I tried to share with him the importance of review article, because he has never published a review article. If you have never published a review article, you don't understand how review article help others, how review articles get citations and those kind of things. So importance of a review article, a subject advances when studies are designed in a way that builds logically based on the findings of prior studies. And for example, I have clear evidence of a journal called International Journal of Management Reviews. This is a journal from British Academy of Management. This is just a 10-year-old journal. While journals with 40-plus-year-old track record still survive or still struggling to increase the impact factor to more than 3. A lot of journals with 40-plus track record has an impact factor of 2 or 2.5 or 1.5. A 10-year-old journal called International Journal of Management Review from British Academy of Management has an impact factor of 6+, which ranks them among the top journals with high impact factor. And this is an evidence for how they publish only review articles. And just because of they focus only on review articles, they have very high number of citations, downloads, and their impact factor is 6+. And I will also tell you some other examples as well. Gerald George, former Academy of Management chief editor, I looked at his Google Scholar citations, and he has 3-4 classic review articles, which has 4,000, 3,000 kind of citations. And out of his, when he became the chief editor of Academy of Management Journal, he had 8,000 citations, and now he has much more. because if you serve as chief editor, a lot of people cite your papers as well. So, but at that time, 5,000 plus out of 8,000 citations of Professor George was only from review articles. And Konstantin Kastikis, chief editor of Journal of International Marketing, I think his term is just getting over, almost over. So he has more than 12,000 citations. Out of 12,000 citations, 7,000 citations just come from review articles. So, so purpose of a review article is to provide ideas and directions for budding researchers to undertake novel research instead of doing replete and recycle type of research. So this is, the directions you need to, a review article is not a plain vanilla write-up. You have to understand your review article should lead to providing really useful ideas and directions for future research based on research gaps. Otherwise, you are not going to get citations. If you don't write a classic review article, I have to withdraw the statement that I already made. You're not going to get citations if you don't write it in a scientific way. So, but if you write in a scientific way, you will get a lot of downloads and citations. Topic selection, the first point I would like to focus is topic selection. If you are going to develop a review article, you need to select a topic for your review article, looking at whether there is a review on the same topic or a similar topic published in the recent years. When we announced the call for papers for International Business Review and Journal of Business Services Industries Journal, we specifically included a sentence: if there is a recent review on the same topic, we would not like to encourage those topics, review article on those topics to submit that, because there's no point in publishing the same thing, or old wine in new bottle in a different way. So you need to have a topic where there is no review published during last 3 years. So if some review is there on the same topic 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that's all right. So this you can check on Google Scholar how many reviews are available on the same topic. And editors and reviewers do not want to consider reviews on topics when there is another comprehensive review already available. If there is no comprehensive reviews available, you can still publish your review in a good journal. So, because there could be sometimes people have published some reviews which are not really comprehensive. In that case, there is still scope for publishing a review on the same topic. So, but in case if there is a very comprehensive review, you can still try to publish, but if an editor or reviewer already aware that there is a comprehensive recent review available on the same topic, they may not consider your review. For example, social entrepreneurship. An MDI faculty approached me to co-author a review article on social entrepreneurship, and she sent me some stuff in which she herself has found that there are 10 review articles on social entrepreneurship published during last 6 years in different journals, which include 1 or 2 review articles on social entrepreneurship published last year and the year before as well. So that means there is not scope for another review article on social entrepreneurship in that case. And IIT Kharagpur PhD students sent me something on service recovery, another review article. So there are at least 3-4 review articles on service recovery published during last 4 or 5 years. In that case, also the same issue goes there as well. International franchising, I published a review on international franchising on Journal of Business Research. And immediately after that, another researcher who is an active researcher in the area of franchising, he came out with a review. And I was co-editing a special issue for small business economics 2 years ago with Professor Alain Fayol from France. And that time we got a submission on international franchising. We still sent it out for blind review. We sent it out to Professor Altinai, who is #1 researcher in franchising area. And his comments were, he had already seen our franchising review, in which we had cited his articles many times, because he has at least 10 articles in the area of franchising. And we sent it to him, the other review article, we got it for his comments, and he rejected, he clearly mentioned that if there is another review, a very comprehensive review available, then there is no scope for repeat publication in a premier journal. So you may be in a position to publish in a low-ranked journal, even if there is another review, but premier journals, you might find it difficult, because most of the reviewers of premier journals are researchers in the same area. So the most articles go to expert researchers in the same area. And topic selection, you have to keep that point. Method of selecting journals or method of selecting articles to be included in your sample when you prepare a review article. You have to keep in mind two important points: journal selection criteria and article selection criteria. If you look at AMR review and AMR Academy of Management review and Academy of Marketing Science review, they publish more conceptual article, which are also type of review article. So those kind of articles, most of them don't really have a clear-cut journal selection criteria, but they also would like to see that you don't cite from some unknown journals and all. So, but if you want to publish a classic review article in a journal like Journal of Management or International Business Review or Journal of Business Research, those kind of premier journals, you really need to follow journal selection criteria. So, for example, your journal selection criteria can be one of this. One of this means I mentioned here 5 or 6 criteria. You should have criteria, it can be, for example, you can say relevant journal in that subject area which are listed on Web of Science. Web of Science, I mentioned SSCI/SSCI, it's the same thing. So that means journals listed on SSCI. So you will not cite any article or you will not include any article from journals which are not there on Web of Science in case if you choose that criteria. So you don't have to necessarily choose that criteria. That is one of the accepted or established criteria to select journals for carrying out, when you prepare a review, when you decide the journal selection criteria, you can either use that criteria. Otherwise, this is the second criteria. You are shortlisting journals, and those journals should have minimum 1 impact factor. So, like I have a review article on internationalization, which published in International Marketing Review in January. Yeah, it's about 7 months old review article. And in that International Marketing Review article, our journal selection criteria was journals with at least 1+ impact factor. So, which means we only selected journals in the subject area. So it is on internationalization. So that means that we had some journals from marketing, some journals from international business and those kind of related international business and marketing. We combined journals from those 2 subject areas. But we shortlisted journals with 1+ impact factor. We did not consider articles from journals which doesn't have at least 1 impact factor for that, but we still got about 146 articles to review for that review article. And so you can choose any of those criteria. Instead of, suppose if we had gone for SSCI, all SSCI listed journals, maybe instead of 146 articles, we would have got 246 articles or maybe 346 articles. So you have to look at comprehensively, and you need to decide journal selection criteria. And it can be, I have also seen ABS 2 and above. So there's a review article in Management and Organization Review. So authors of that paper has used ABS 2 and above. So in the relevant subject area, so you collect articles from journals which have at least ABS 2 and above ranking. So that's their criteria. ABDC B and above. So you need to have some criteria, I mentioned FT journals only, but FT journals only would not make any sense. So because there are only few journals in some subject areas. Suppose if you select only marketing, there will be only 5 journals. So it's not easy to do a review just based on FT journals. So because if FT journal doesn't accept your paper, you will not be in a position to publish that paper anywhere else. I had a very, very similar experience from Australia. A professor from an Australian university with her PhD student, they drafted a review article. None of them have published any review article before. So they did not use the criteria of FT, but in Australia they don't care FT or non-FT, but they care S star and A in Australia. So even all Australian universities have a notice board. If the faculty publish it in A or S star, they will display the paper in notice board. So that's what I had seen when I visited half a dozen Australian universities. Had a chance to visit a lot of universities in Melbourne and Brisbane 2 years ago. So all of them have a notice board, and A-star ABDC they will display. So like you have a notice board here. I don't know whether you have any criteria to display. So, I mean, not here, so in front of your campus, right? So that kind of thing is there in Australian universities, A and A-star, they display. So, but what I'm trying to say is that paper, Australian authors, what they did, they selected papers only from A-star journals. And they only got 5 journals. And they wrote to me an email that now they want me to co-author and help them to publish this somewhere in any A journal, because they already submitted to 5 A-star journals and all 5 A-star journals rejected the paper. So, and they have citations only from those 5 A-star journals. That means their article selection, journal selection criteria is just 5 journals, 5 A-star journals. No other citation from no other journal. They simply discounted all the A journals and all. So, and no journal will consider that article if they haven't considered articles from those A journals. So, and I told immediately that you don't have any citation from any other journal, just 5 journals. This is not going to work. So I replied to them back, and that way, because they just by collecting articles from 5 journals, if you are unable to publish in those 5 journals, no other journal will publish. So so you need to Scopus, but Scopus is a very vast, Scopus has a lot of journals. So I have also, like, out of 72 review articles I received as editor of special review issue of International Business Review, there were about 25 articles. Authors had used Scopus as journal selection criteria. Scopus means about 16 or 1800 business journals. So Scopus means it's too much. It's like UGC list. I mean, if you select articles from Scopus, that means you are bound to miss some articles, some journals, because you cannot search 1500 or 1800 journal website to source articles. It becomes too much. And you will get 1000 or 2000 plus articles also. So that is too much. FT is only 4, so forget about FT, forget about Scopus. This is my suggestion. So think about in between. Both FT is extreme, Scopus is extreme. Scopus is okay. When I went to some private institution, they were talking about Scopus. So Scopus is okay for them, but Scopus is not okay for a good journal. So, but I mean, because if you think that you can survey all the Scopus journals and all, it's fine. It is. I'm not saying it is a bad idea. It's not wrong, but you have to make sure that you look at each journal website. Each journal which has a listing on Scopus. It becomes too much work for you. It is possible to do it, but I have done one paper based on Scopus also, one of my review article. But after doing that really took my time. So I felt like my tummy. I did not have time to go to the gym or even to go for a walk when I did that one. So it was too much work. So then I did not do any other review based on Scopus after that. So yeah, so you need to have a criteria in between, not Scopus, not FT. This is my suggestion, but you don't have to always agree with me. You can have your own view as well. Article search criteria, you also need to have article selection. So how do you select articles? So you can search on the database, like Web of Science database, or any other SSCI, that is Web of Science. And in addition to that, in order to cross-check, to make sure that you don't miss relevant article, you can also search on each journal website, journals that you selected, and so that you can make sure that you don't miss any article. Because a review article means it has to be a comprehensive review. You should not miss any relevant article. So that way, you also need to have keywords. Suppose, let's say you are going to do a review on brand equity. You need to have at least half a dozen keywords, individual keywords and combined keywords, and then you need to use those keywords to find relevant articles. So that is very important. And you can have how do you select article? Once you have journals, once you shortlisted the criteria for journals, you need to have all articles relevant to your topic. So you can use either this criteria or this criteria. The first criteria is you select keywords, and your keywords should appear either in title or in abstract or in keywords of those articles. Otherwise, your keywords in article, text, or abstract. Suppose if you choose the second criteria, you might get 1,000 plus articles. Because your keyword, one of your keyword appearing anywhere in the text. That means there is a chance that you get a lot of articles, thousands of articles. But if you choose the first criteria, the number of articles you might get maybe 70 or 80. The article is really focusing on that keywords. So first, probably to begin with, you can use the first criteria, and if you don't get enough article using the first criteria, you can think about the second criteria. Because some topics, suppose if the topic is relatively new, so something on online business and all is relatively new topic, last 10 years. So in that case, if you just use the first criteria to select article, something suppose if, I think Rahul is doing on online reviews, so in that case, Rahul cannot find articles which published on 20 years ago. So if he cannot find a lot of articles, then he might have to use the criteria, the second criteria. But if somebody is doing something on foreign investment which is there for last 50 years, maybe the first criteria will work. So depending upon the topic, you need to decide the article selection criteria. Yeah, so this is some experience sharing. This is a very recent experience for International Business Review special issue, which we might launch it as a biannual special issue for IBR in case if it works in future. And out of 72 submissions, 20 plus didn't have journal selection criteria, which means they had some citations from top journals. They also had some citation from IMT Ghaziabad journal and for School of Management journals. So those kind of, and some of them cite some textbooks, which is published by Excel books and those kind of things. So those kind of citations in a classic review article will not work because that creates negative image. You really need to have journal selection criteria. And yeah, so I mentioned here reference list included books, local journals, because editors, in case if editor is sincere, they look at the reference list, they can easily figure out whether you have actually gone through the articles, relevant articles, what kind of journals you referred, and all those kind of things. Title of a classic review article, better short titles, like I mentioned 3 here: Masterage Marketing, a review and research agenda; Brand Equity Research, a review and future agenda; International Franchising, a review and research agenda. So why I mentioned research agenda here is, instead of research agenda, probably you can also use directions for future research, but research agenda is more crystal clear. So one of the purposes of a review article is also highlight research gaps and provides directions for future research with reference to methods, constructs, variables, context, and theories, and all those kind of things. So in case if you are unable to provide clear directions for future research, your review article will not get cited. Your review article would not be useful for others. You have to really find out research gaps and provide and set future research agenda. Sample size and time period. At least 50 articles should be reviewed in a classic review article. And it could be 50 to 500 depending upon the topic, and number of articles can be 50 to 500. Suppose it's a topic which is a relatively new or novel topic, so 50 articles would be okay. But if a topic is very, very old, and you will find a lot of articles, so you are likely to have more articles in that case. Time period of publication to be covered in a classic review article, minimum 10 years. It can go up to 50 years. So there is a very interesting review article on exporting, so which covers 50 years. I did a review article out of my 8 classic review articles I published. So different articles have different time period. I have a review, my minimum time period for all my review articles, minimum is 15 to 45. So some review articles I did 2 decades, some 3 decades, but minimum is 15 years. So if it is 15 years, last 15 years. If it is 30 years, last 30 years. If it is 50 years, last 50 years. So you need to have, suppose, you need to have some rationale to justify why you choose last 10 years or last 20 years. Suppose it's a new topic, 10 years is enough. I mean, because the research starts only 10 years before, right? So the topic is very new. Something on, let's say, iCloud research and those kind of things. iCloud is relatively new, right? So you cannot do a review on iCloud based on last 20 years because there was nothing called iCloud 20 years ago. So another suggestion is focus on findings of prior studies. This is what many PhD supervisors forget to tell PhD students because sometimes PhD supervisors are everywhere busy. So like 2 months ago, I got an email from Delhi. One of the students wrote to me that my professor is so busy, can you please help me to guide me to complete my PhD because my professor is supervising 9 or 10 students, especially in India with 1.2 billion people. I don't know about IIMs, but I was surprised this time when I arrived in India. My first invitation was from IIT Delhi, which was, they invited me before I landed in India. So I booked my trip with a stopgap of half a day in Delhi. And I went to IIT Delhi. They had 60 PhD students. So 10 years ago, they had only 6 PhD students, from 6 to 60. And Christ University in Bangalore, from 0 to 150. They have 150 PhD students. So they did not have any PhD student 5 years ago, now 150. So you are going to compete with all these people. So what I'm trying to say, but why I'm saying is that supervisors, when they supervise 10 or 15 students, in America, professors supervise only 1 or 2 students at the same time. So they have time to closely work with the students. So in India, when supervisors don't have enough time, especially if they're supervising several students, they forget to tell you that you have to focus on findings. So you need to focus on findings. Otherwise, your study will not be useful. So you have to compare the findings of prior studies. If you don't compare the findings of prior studies, I mentioned the findings in capital letter here because otherwise you will forget tomorrow, right? So findings are important. And you can also prepare a table highlighting studies with similar or same findings, which is very important. Otherwise, if you don't have a table, then, so you cannot really show that you are focusing on findings. And research gaps and directions for future research, identification of research gaps based on widely used theories, methods, constructs, or variables, and context. This is a very interesting point from my point of view, and I also found it interesting when I did this presentation as part of IMES conference in University in Prague, Czech Republic. This is a European Union conference. I was there in May last week, and I did this presentation as part of that conference, and one of the lady professors who came from another European country, she friended me on Facebook after my presentation next day, and I looked at her Facebook profile page, and she had a photo of this one. So I was surprised why she put this photo. So, and she also wrote to me, this is the most important slide in your presentation. So that's why she found it, And why she found it interesting, because identification of research gaps based on widely used theories. What are the widely used theories in this field? What are the widely used methods? What are the widely used constructs of variables? And what are the widely used industry contexts? Or what are the widely used country contexts? Whatever the topic that you have, whatever the thematic area you have for conducting a review. And I mentioned just TMCC criteria, so acronym for all these things. And you need to create one table for widely used theories. You need to create another table for widely used methods. You can create another table for widely used variables in that area. And so you need to create tables for this so that it becomes a structured and systematic review. And you have to also find, suppose in case the same regression, logistic regression is used by 90% of researchers in this field, then you have to also mention that everybody is using logistic regression. That means it has become recycled. You have to suggest what are the other possible methods to use in this area. So that is the purpose of doing this analysis or doing this review. Suppose if everybody is using the same variable, everybody is using technology adoption model, that means TAM has become obsolete. So you need to find out what percentage of research is done using terms. Suppose if you're doing information technology research or something on that, so you need to look at those things. Or a lot of people are using institutional theory in international business. I would say that institutional theory has become obsolete. So you have to suggest what are the other theories possible to do research in international business that way, or service quality and services marketing. So this is important. And I mentioned 20 or 25% weightage should be for directions for future research. So this has to be based on this points that I'm talking ideally. And now I would try to quickly classify these review articles into 7 types. Structured review articles. Structured review effectiveness of celebrity endorsement. So most of the meta-analysis papers have a relationship testing. I mean, you collect papers that has a focus on cause and effect or relationship testing, dependent variable, independent variable on a specific phenomena, and you select 60 or 70 papers or 80 papers that has a specific focus, and then you use a meta-analysis software like Stata or Metaphor, Meta Excel, Meta Essential. This is also type of review article, but it's a different type of review article. And review with theoretical or testable proposition. This is a 7th type of review article. So most articles in AMS review or AMR falls in this category. So they instead of hypothesis, empirical articles are always based on hypothesis, and this type of review articles are based on propositions. So you derive propositions, but those propositions should be ideally theoretical or testable. Testable means future researchers should be in a position to use your proposition as testable hypothesis in their studies. So the proposition that you craft need to be scientific, because you have to understand why you craft those propositions. Because if you derive propositions which are testable type, a lot of future researchers will cite your paper will get citations. I wish one day IIMs will introduce a system where IIMs will reward the researchers based on citations as well. So maybe, yeah. So that we will have more original thought process in research. Some papers I mentioned here with this kind of, look at AMS review or AMR, a lot of papers falls in this category. And review focusing on theory developments, this is similar, the 7, I mentioned it as 7. So the other one, it is similar to the first slide, the previous slide. So, so that means you don't use any empirics, but your review, the aim, the purpose of review is to develop or propose theory in your review. So like Springboard, they reviewed articles and they developed or they proposed this theory. So likewise, you can find this kind of articles also. Yeah, so it's almost 5:30, so maybe if you have any question, I'd be happy to answer.
Also come up with some propositions, right?
You can do that, but in case if you have a lot of very, very interesting tables, if you also add propositions, it becomes too much. But you can do that. But you can mix. You can have a proposition hybrid approach, but you have to also keep in mind that if you do too many different type of things, so proposition, when you derive proposition, it has to be scientific, it has to be either theoretical or testable. So you have to keep that in mind. It's hard to say which one is very popular, so I come across all these 7 types of review articles.
What about structure?
There are a lot of structured review articles get more citations. Of course, you can have propositions also, then if your propositions are testable, those papers get citations as well.